And you're welcome, guys, once again. And from the last video, what we basically did was we scaffolded our Cordova plugins. Basically, we kind of got the Cordova plugins we're going to use, which was the camera and then SQLite storage. And the camera we're going to use the camera because we'll need to take an image of the user's, a picture of the user's face, and then perform our authentication based on that. And the SQLite storage because we're going to be doing a bit of authentication here. So we wouldn't want the user to be able to access the profile unless he has either created an account and then he has logged in. Okay, so here we are right now, and I've already done ionic serve, so our application has already been served for us on the browser. And our home page is going to serve us as our login. Our register is going to serve us as our registration, and now this is going to be our user profile inside the folder called user and then profile. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to get rid of everything here, and we'll need an ionic content, an ion content, and our ion content should have a padding so that the whole content does not take up the whole width of the screen. Sort of like it just kind of stays more like Bootstrap's container. And now we have saved that. And the next thing we're going to be looking at is we need an ion row. So let's get an ion row. And our ion row is going to come with an ion column, size of 12. And we need a div here. I'm going to call this image container. And our div would have an image that should have a class. We're going to call this class avatar. Avatar. And we want an auth, okay, just in case the image does not show. Avatar. And the source of this our image. Okay, so guys, what I did before I started this video was I kind of got an image that we're going to be using to kind of show the user that, hey bro, you're going to be performing, your face is going to be needed for this application. And this was it. I kind of used it too for the client's application, and I like it. So now let's just head straight to assets and images, and this is the name of the image. And now once that is set and done, we save that, check in on our browser and our ionic application. Yep, you can see how our image looks. We'll actually need to style our image a bit. So first of all, we'll need to style the image container. And for our image container, we want to actually align all contents to the center. Text align center. We want to give our content a little bit of margin, so 24 pixels by left 0, right 12 pixels, and then 0. Okay. And we also want to style our avatar. So I'm going to say we're going to target our image tag and then our avatar content. And for this, we need a width of 40%. I think that should be okay, just about 40%. Of course, we need the border radius. We want it to really be curved round, more like 50%, so that the whole border, like everything, is kind of like a circle. And then we need a margin left of 30%, so that it kind of looks a bit in the center, 30%. And a margin top of 50 pixels, so that it has a little bit of space from it and the top of our application. 50 pixels. And normally you wouldn't want to have this kind of height, because the icon, the kind of like the company's or the client's logo is going to take up that font height, and it's going to be the one to do that. But for this application, we're not taking any logo, so we're just going to do that. And look how our application looks. Where am I missing it? Let's see. Right, let me see. Let's see. Margin left. Okay, so if we get rid of margin left, it centers. Alright, so now let's get rid of margin left. Anyway. Okay, I think because I added text align center here, we don't need this margin left. So yep, our icon centers perfectly. Next up is to perform our form validation. We're going to be using Angular forms, and for us to be able to use that, we have to import that in our app.module.ts. So right here in our app.module.ts, I would like to import alright, so from Angular forms, and we want to import a couple of things here. So form module, we need form module, we need form builder and form group. Though I'm not really sure we could use that, but let's just go with it. Form group, and let me see. Common. Okay, no. So now what we can do now is right inside of of our imports, we want to add our forms module. So let's get this over to a new line, and we want to add our form module. And now that should do. We also added form builder and form group, and I don't really think we'll use this two. So let's just get rid of this two. I'm not sure we're going to use this two. So let's just get rid of this two. Now, what we can do now is in our home page, we are going to use a form. So ionic form, and we want to call this, okay, no, we'll not use a form group, right? And for our submit action, I don't like to call this, let's call this login. And we don't need form control. Alright, so get rid of that. Form control. Alright, and now let me just do this a bit. So we're going to use the forms module that we imported here. So we're going to say, we're going to call this, let's call this login form or just whatever. And this will be equal to ng form. And we are going to say, if our form is not valid, we want to basically disable this button. So we're adding disable and saying if the form is not valid, then please disable this button. And now we'll just go straight to the browser and see what we have designed so far. And here's what it looks like, but it still doesn't look as good as we want it to. So the first thing we want to do here is for this button, I want to expand it to the fullest. And now when I save that and we have a refresh, our button should take like, alright, now that looks cooler. And we want our button to have a little bit of a margin from the top. So we can add a star here to this button. And we'll just say star margin top of 20 pixels. And after that, right next to our login text, we want an icon here just to make this a bit more beautiful. So we're going to use an NBSP just to give it a little bit of space. And we need ion icon. And our icon name is going to be login. So that when we come to the browser and check it now, we have our icon. Why is our icon not displayed? Let's refresh that again. And our icon is not reflecting. Why? Because we got the name wrong. It's actually log in. Okay, and now our icon should display right here. And that's our login icon. And we want to also make a couple of changes on our floating text. Like here, we just want to say email. And here too is also going to be password. And if you also notice, if I save this right now, and I come over here, and I click on this button, you can see it's telling us that this function is not yet created. But before we do that, we actually want this to be required, so that this way our button can, so that this way before the user kind of clicks on the submit, he must have filled out this form. And we're going to go to homepage.ts and down to our TypeScript file, and we are going to create the login function. So where is it? Where is that? Here on our form, in our login, and just say game over here, paste that in here, and we're going to log over to the console and say login button was clicked. Login button was clicked. We save that, and now we are all set to go. So if I click on this button, you can see it tells us login button was clicked, but our input fields are not required. So let's head back to our homepage.ts and declare our variables. So we're going to declare a variable here, an object, and we're going to call this form, and it's going to have email of an empty string and password of an empty string. And what we can simply do here is, here we can kind of do two-way binding. So we're going to use an ng model. An ng model, which will be equal to form dot email. That's for, oh sorry, I'm actually entering that in our label. It's supposed to be in our ion input, and this is supposed to be type of email, not text. Type of email, and this should be type of password. And we also want to paste that in here, form dot password. And now once we save this and everything is looking good, can now come down here and wait for our browser. And there's an error. What is the problem? It says if ng model is used within a form tag, either the name attribute must be set or the form control must be defined. Alright, so now let's go back to application and quickly fix that. And the reason why it's throwing that error is because we missed out on adding the name. So we can add the name here, email, and add another name here and password. And now we save that and get over to our browser, and our browser refreshes now, and we can see no error. And then just check out this, the button is actually disabled. I can't interact with this button until I fill this form. So let's say I entered E. I can still interact with this button. Then I actually get my password. That's now when I can now interact with this button. And you can see in our console we are saying login button was clicked. Okay, so the next thing we want to do right now is to provide a link right under this button that is going to take us over to our registration page. And to do that, we're going to use an ion column, of course size of 12, and we're going to use an ion text. And I'm just going to add one very important thing here to our style, and that is to justify our contents to the center. And we need a bold tag, and on this bold tag we're going to say go to register page, something like that. Go to register page, or no, something like say have no account, click here. Have no account, click here. And on this ion text we're going to use the Angular router link and navigate to /register. And if we go to our app routing module.ts, you can see we already have a path here called register. So with that being done, let's check on our browser, and now you can see have no account, click here. We click here, it takes us to the register page. So what I can do now is, let's start this up a little bit, and let's give this a class of say register link. And after this register link, we want to style it, so we'll go to our homepage.css and start this register link. So what I want is, I want a margin left of around 20% so that it just kind of centers our text. And I save that and get over to our browser and wait for that to refresh, and now yep, you have this and it's right at the center. So now let's just get back to login. And the next thing we want to do after this is oh sorry, not login, it's home. Okay, and the next thing we want to do after this is we actually want to, let's get back to our home page. And now once we have our form perfectly set up, the next thing that we want to do now is we're going to create a div tag, and that div tag is going to have two image tags, and those two image tags, their sources are going to be empty. And the first image tag is going to store the image from the server, and the second image tag is also going to store our base64 encoded string from our ionic from our Cordova camera plugin. Alright, so basically what do we need these two images for? It's really simple. Once the user takes the image of, once the user enters his correct email and password, we perform authentication. And now once we are done with the authentication, you can see here in our login public function, login function, all right, you can see that in our login function we are returning the absolute path to the image here. So what we are going to do there is we are going to store that image from the server right inside of that image tag, and then we are also going to, now once the user because once the user finish his login and registration, we are going to pop up the camera and tell him to take a picture. Now, once the login and registration details are correct, we'll collect the image from the server and kind of pass the image URL to the first image tag, which actually contains an ID called image from the server. And from that first image tag, once user takes a picture with his camera, we're going to also store the basic first string of the user's image that he just currently took from the camera, and then we're going to compare them with the one that came from the server, and then we can now know whether we log the user in or not. If you don't get what I just said right now, don't worry. Once we get proper hands into that particular area of this tutorial, you're going to perfectly understand it, and you are also going to enjoy it. So what we want to do here is we're going to create a div tag, and this div tag is going to be styled to display none. And we want to have two image tags. So this is image. I don't know, img. Oh my god. Sometimes VS Code, I don't even understand. So our image is going to have an empty source and an ID that is going to call, we're going to call this login, an ID of login image. So basically what this particular image is going to be storing for us is the image that comes from the user's camera. And then this other image, so let me just copy this since VS Code is, I don't know, the snippet is misbehaving. So now we are going to call this image from the server. So img from server, and this is going to be the one that comes in once the user's email and password is correct, and the source will also be empty. And for this div, we want to give this div an element reference of hash. Let's call this login images, and we're gonna access that using Angular's view child. Okay, so now once we have saved that, we are actually done with this. So what I'm going to do now is we can get over to the browser and just be sure that everything is working on our login page. And if nothing happens, all right, then I have to fill this and then fill this, and then it enables us to click the button. All right, and now we can click here to take us to the register page. Hey bro, we don't need to save that password. So now once this is done, the next thing we want to do right now is to style our register page. So I'm going to go to register page, but before I do that, we kind of want to copy everything here and just go into our register page .html and get rid of all this. Just paste it in here. We won't be needing this. So now here we're going to call this register, since we won't be authenticating the user. Not authenticating actually, like logging in the user, authenticating the user. Yes, here we'll just be registering the user, creating a new account. So for our new account, let us get back to our API. And right in our API, we are going to see the details that we provided. Here we have a name, we have an email, we have a password, and we have an image. And let me just go to my user model just to be sure. We have name, email, password, and image. So now we have name, email, password, and image, right? So what we can do here now is for our ion item, just copy that right here and paste that. So the first one is going to be the name. I want to provide the name attribute so that it does not have that same error. And here from.name, we want the name. It is actually required. So we have the name, the email, the password, and we need the image. So let me see, name, email, password. So now we are going to create the image here, and for that we are going to use a button. So let's just copy this button, and that button is going to tell the user choose an image, something like that, or say upload an image. So we're going to just change this text to say upload an image, and icon name should be file. Now save that, and now when we come over to our login page, okay, it's having canary property name of undefined. Okay. So what we are going to do first of all is let's just go down to our register page.ts, and we're going to create a public form which is going to have name. All right, name should be null. We have email, email should also be null too. We have a password. Password should also be null. And that is just about that for what we have for now. And we also want to create the function which is called register. So now let's just copy this right here, and we get over here and we call this register. And for this register function in our TypeScript file, we're going to just log it over to the console and say register button has been clicked. So now let's say register button has been clicked. Alright, and now we save that and check our browser and click here. Okay. Now here's exactly how it looks, but we want to also add the same styling we added here to this. We can actually add that in our variable.scss to have a global styling, but I personally don't like that. So now let's copy this right here. Though sometimes I find it useful when I have to maybe have like a like let's say 10 pages sharing the same CSS files, but 1 or 2 pages not really. So now let's get back to our register page. That's CSS register page that CSS. Paste that in here, save that now, and that should look much better. Yes, so we have the name, we have the email, we have the password. And for this particular button, the way this button is going to work, let's just enter a name. You can see the button 2 is also disabled because you also have to fill up this field. But the way this button is going to work is once we click this button, we want to show an action sheet, and that action sheet is going to tell us to kind of like say maybe take your camera, or probably maybe say take an image from your gallery. Okay, so now let's get straight up to doing that. Oh, sorry, not here. We have to do that in our register. Let's get back first to our register page, the HTML. And for that button, we are going to add a click event to it, an ng click. All right, and okay, let me just get this off first and use iClick. Now that's cool. So we're going to call this load action sheet. And now I just need to copy this, save this, go back over to our register page.ts and paste it in here. And I'm going to go action sheet, and yes. So let me draw that down a bit. So this particular snippet I'm using is really awesome. This is one of the wonders it can do for you. So now let's just comment this out and get down to the end. This looks like the end of our class, right? No. So let's just, we need to get rid of one of them. So let's get rid of this. And since we have an await, our function needs to have an async here. So what we can do now is we would need to import action sheet controller from @ionic / Angular, and we want to use the action sheet controller, and we also want to do dependency injection here. So we want to pass that in the constructor. Public action sheet controller should be of type action sheet controller. Okay, so basically if I save this now, just get over to my browser and let our registration page do some refresh. If I enter my name and say Francis, enter my email and say derek@gmail.com, enter my password PSSWRD, and you can see now that we get our action sheet here. So but I want to kind of modify our action sheet a bit. So what we can do first of all is let's get back to this register page, and this button shouldn't be able to submit our form. So it should not be type of submit, but it should be disabled once the login details are not valid. So what we can do now is to go back to our register page.ts, And here our header is going to be, say, choose an image. And here we're going to allow the users two things. First of all, we're going to allow the user the ability to be able to choose an image, and also the ability to be able to take a picture of an image. So we have text here. These are our buttons. One, share. We don't need share. Yep, we'll just leave cancel. So the first one would be camera. And the next one would be, oh no, the text would be, yeah, camera. And then the next should be files. And okay, so now let's save that. We're going to leave cancel. And for this handler, let's get rid of this. Let's also get rid of this. We're going to call separate functions that should do the calling. For cancel or close, we can just let that be. And we are going to create two functions here. The first to be load file chooser. And okay, no, sorry, this is TypeScript. And then next would be load camera. And let's just write that function next to it. So load camera, and we can just come here and say this dot load camera, and this dot load file chooser, and we can basically just log to the console and say file chooser was what was clicked. Okay, and file chooser was clicked, and in our camera we can also log to the console and say camera was clicked. Camera was clicked. And now once we save that, we get over to our browser, and now let's get these details up and running. And now let's click here, pops that up. Now if we click on the camera, camera was clicked, and we click on the file chooser was clicked, and we click on the console, and console is clicked. Okay, so what we want to do now is we actually want to change these icons to represent the camera, and this to also represent the file chooser. So now let's just get straight up back here, and let's change these files to images. And also let's change this to camera. Let's change this icon to camera. And camera, let's get rid of this row destructive. And now let's save this and compiles. And yep, here you have that looking good. Now if I click on this, you have camera, you have files. Oh, let's change that text from files to image. Yes, let's change that text from files to image. So files to image, save that. And now let's refresh that again. And now let's enter a name. Just enter anything as the email, enter a password, click on upload image, and here you have camera, you have images, and you have cancel, and you have our login button. And this also that have an account, click here. We want to also change that route somewhere here. So this is going to be home, and just say login here and save that once again. And now once that is refreshed, we have login here, but we don't like where it is centered. So let's go into our register page, that's SCSS, and let's make that 30% or 30%, since our text is a bit smaller. And now once that is refreshed yet again, still not centered just where I want it to be, so let's give that 40%. And now as we have saved this, we refresh our browser, and yep, our login kind of looks good, and our form is just as good as we want it to be. And so with that being done, we have successfully designed our login and our registration form